All right, next section, we've got 20 minutes. We're going to talk about swimming. Nate, what is your swimming background?
Uh, Not great. I had to basically learn how to actually swim when I did that first triathlon, going to like a local high school in the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
So that was up to there. You're like, I could survive, in open water basically. But aside from that, I never really learned how to properly swim. So
Okay.
yeah, right now it's relearning that and
Hmm.
watch a YouTube video, then go to the YMCA and try to practice it and implement, what I watched. And but I find I'm thinking about so many things while I'm in the pool
Yeah.
to where it's
Um,
like exhausting.
yeah, that's really common.
Yep.
Hopefully, after this, you'll be able to pick up just like one or two things to try and
Sure.
also be able to filter what you're listening to and reading. I'll give you a perspective that will let you decide if something is good for you to try or not. And
Okay.
it's really okay to just pick one or two things that you think should be good for you and just practice those and not worry about anything else. Nobody's going to have a perfect swim stroke. Even the best swimmers in the world, the Olympic champions, they all have flaws. They're fast in spite of it, not because of it. But probably 95, 98% of their strokes are all doing certain things correctly. And so you can be a good swimmer without a perfect stroke. So doing drill XYZ may not be the right choice for you. So I'll show you how to sort of pick those things out. Um, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about just open water, things that you can do in open water to make that a better experience, regardless of what your swimming ability is, whether you're a great swimmer and fast or intermediate or a little bit afraid of it. There are ways to make open water more comfortable for you. Nate, you've mentioned about being sort of anxious about knowing how to put your race numbers on. So
Yeah.
that falls in this category of expectations and knowing your environment. Anything that you can do before the day of the race to um, to reduce unknowns on race day is going to improve your experience. And it may sound like a little thing, but if that's the one thing that you keep worrying about, it's going to constantly bug you and impact your enjoyment of other things until you learn how to do your race numbers. So it's the same thing with swimming and the environment. Um, Knowing yourself, so knowing how you react in certain situations is really important to know and to practice. And we're going to go through some skills for that. And then the actual swimming skills, I left that last on purpose because the actual skills are less important than these first two things. Having a calm approach, a good mindset, maximizing your experience by developing awareness of the specific race you're preparing for and any unknowns, knowing how you react during a swim or an open water swim and having some strategies for calming yourself. Those are the most important things. The skill is a lifetime of practice. So wherever you are on race day, that's fine. That's where you are. So Nate, Ed, I probably asked you this before, but if you were to describe what your swimming feels like in just a couple of words, what would it be?
Um, Better, more practice is better. I would say it accomplishes the job, but it's not necessarily based on anything scientific. I learned to swim as a little kid, and that's what I've been working with. And
Sure.
so I guess I would say that. But with the last class and a lot of the techniques and watching some of the swim videos uh, that you had referred, I think about my swim very differently now. And when I'm in the water, I'm consciously just trying to, pick a thing or two and just make subtle changes. But I'm the type of person, like, I can't do five things because then I can't, like, I'll start to shut down. Like, it's just too
Yeah.
much. I can't think about five things. So I'm like,
Yeah.
things and I'll kind of practice that. And then I'll pick another couple things and try that.
Yeah. That's
And
perfect.
that, that wasn't one or two words, but
That's okay. No, that's totally fine. It's And that's one of the dangers of there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, Nate. It's kind of what everybody does. But one of the dangers of watching YouTube videos is that you don't have a way of sort of categorizing, is this a good skill for me to practice right now? Is this skill more important? I need to do all five of these things that he's talking about or she's talking about in order to be a good swimmer. And then you get to the pool and you don't remember any of them. So just doing one thing or thinking of one thing in the pool allows you to improve one thing more, like improve that one skill 1%, even though it's only one skill of dozens. You're going to be a better swimmer at the end of that swim because you've increased your awareness about this one part of your body. And it could be something as simple as today I swam at Lake Arthur this morning and I thought about the base of my right thumb. That was all I thought about because my left shoulder had been bothering me for a while, not the joint, but the muscle. And that muscle finally stopped complaining. I added some lightweight routine. So that muscle was not the tired one that was complaining. It was this left thumb joint, probably a little arthritis, but I was just playing with the angle of my hand. How much pressure was I using? Was I holding this thumb in a tense way? Is there a better way to hold it? That's all I thought about for 20 minutes. So totally fair. You don't have to think about 20 things. Nate, aside from watching YouTube videos, is there a way that you would describe your swimming? Like when you actually swim, does it feel like you're smooth? Does it feel like you're struggling?
I think initially, the first couple, laps, it definitely feels a little chaotic and all over the place, or like, come out the gate hot, right?
Yeah.
But now being more conscious of it, I find I can, by the end of say my, time at the pool, if I slow down, is actually when it's more smooth. Yeah, like the saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yep.
Uh, but I still feel like, okay, I maybe make a little headway on certain things, but yeah, definitely starting out feels a little chaotic, and I just have
Yeah.
to be very mindful of it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's almost like I can settle in a little bit,
Yeah.
but still, that's my swimming is my fear basically. So,
Hmm. Okay. Got it.
yep.
I always like to tell this story, this third one here, like I'm at war. I was giving swim lessons to a guy who was in the Navy, and he had done several tours in, um, I want to say Iraq. I'm not sure. This was a
Hmm.
while ago. Um, and I didn't know a lot about his background during the first lesson. We got to know each other over time. And so I usually have people swim a 25 or a 50 or whatever I think they're comfortable with, and I just watch them without giving any instruction. And then I always ask them this question. Um, and he finished his little 50 at the beginning, and he said, "It feels like I'm at war." And the crazy thing is, he'd actually been at war, and this is how he described his swimming. So, like, that's really stressful to have something so, um, most Americans, most people in the world have, well, I don't know, most people. I've never been to war. I imagine that it's something that's really emotionally strenuous and probably something that you manage the rest of your life. And this is what swimming felt like for him. So I always like to get kind of a before, and then as we go along, having said, "Oh, it just feels chaotic," your part of your brain remembers that, and like when you realize it's smooth, you realize how much forward progress that you've made, and that's really validating and lets you know that you're on the right path. All right, so the environment, knowing what to expect, is, like I said, one of the most important elements. This is why people go to race a couple days early so they can show up, they can check out the race course, they can look at the swim exit, they can learn is body marking tattoos, or they're kind that you wet with paper towel and then peel off, or is it Sharpie marker? Can I do it myself before, the night before, or do I need to show up at a certain time? Little details. Um, So the more relaxed that you can be about race day morning, the better you will be able to manage the actual race experience. So when you swim at the beginning of a race, it can feel a little bit like you're in a crowded elevator. And I use that term because when you're in an elevator, you're sort of, if there's too many people, you get shoulder to shoulder, and then, making a little space for yourself with your elbows, and someone might turn around to, pick up their wallet that fell and they bump you. It's not deliberate that they're pushing you, but there's a limited amount of space. And the beginning of a race can feel a lot like that. But if you keep in mind that water is fluid and only one thing can be in one space at any one time, and unlike an elevator, if someone bumps into you, you're going to bump into someone else. It's going to be a chain reaction, and everybody's going to be mad. In the water, if someone bumps into you, you're both going to just sort of bounce off of each other. You're not going to hit anything. You're not going to fall. There's just this reaction with physics. And so if someone bumps into you, think of the analogy of bending over to pick up something that fell down in a crowded space. You're going to get bumped by somebody's hip or elbow. They're not hitting you on purpose. The more relaxed you can be, that most contact is not intentional, the easier it is to not want to retaliate, even if it's sort of unconscious. I don't know. Makes me think of like in junior high school, there would be certain people that maybe you had a grudge against and you deliberately shoulder them, or, someone would run into me. When I was in 7th grade, I went from being the biggest kid in my school to being, a medium-sized person with 3 times as many people. And so when someone would jostle me in the hallway, I always took it as an insult because I was used to being the biggest person and being able to, push other people around if I wanted to. I don't know if that's a great example, but that reaction, if you can realize it's not going to hurt you. They're not doing it deliberately. If you respond by, giving an elbow back or kicking harder, you're spending energy that you could be using to just move forward in the water. And then most races will have lifeguards, boats, buoys, paddleboards, observers. Joella runs a great race. She's got lots of people out on the water, and big orange and yellow buoys that are very easy to see. So this is Lake Arthur itself. This is where the race is, where little swimmer guy is. The bridge that was in that last picture is right here. And the picture was taken from this beach right here. So this is looking across the bridge, and the race start is around the corner. This swim is at Porter's Cove here, and so we have practice swims there every Monday. So if you can make it to 1 or 2 practice swims, it's going to be one more thing that you can take off your plate of the unknowns. It's over here in the lake and not over here. You can go over here and swim. There's a roped area, so you can get experience swimming right where the race is. Just having been in the water, touched the water, seeing what the visibility is like, those are all things that are unknowns until you get into the water. You don't want the race start to be the first time you do that. So the swim course for the sprint and the Olympic, they're both shaped like triangles. This is the sprint. If you look at this point out here, the sprint is half the distance. It starts on one side of the beach. You swim in a trapezoid shape, and you get out on the other side of the beach, and there are lots of people cheering for you, and there is an arch at the swim exit, and you run up the hill to transition, which is in this area right here. The Olympic course goes further out, of course, but same shape, it's just bigger. And so for the sprint, they just take the buoys that are here and they just move them in. Talked about that. All right, we're going to talk about lizards and tigers and traffic lights. And I'm going to zoom through this pretty quickly because I do want to talk about the skills. I'm going to go a little extra, like 10 or 15 minutes, since we got started late with the logistical mix-up. So your brain has a part of it that is designed to constantly scan for danger. In modern society, those dangers can be, loud noises, or, a car honking at you, or someone hitting you in the elevator, or walking by you in the hallway, or a person mugging you on the streets at night. There's all sorts of dangers in our environment. And we respond with, appropriately, usually with, fight or flight or freeze. Adrenaline increases, your senses get sharper, your vision gets sharper, your GI system shuts down so that the blood can go to your muscles in your brain and get ready to fight or to run, or freeze. The freeze part is really a applicable in triathlon because if you freeze, it means that you're not able to know what to do. Right? Your brain, the part of your brain that plans, so this is planning over here, map and compass. Part of your brain that plans gets shut down. And if your fear slash anxiety slash danger level is so high that you freeze, even though you're swimming, part of your brain that is able to plan, if that freezes, then you can't calm yourself down. You can't call for help. You can't think about what the right thing to do is. You can't take a time out. You can't access your skills that you've been practicing in the pool, like how to hold my thumb so it doesn't hurt, or how to, stroke under the water, or what to do with your legs. There's all these skills you've been practicing with a lot of focus, and you want to be able to access enough of that during the swim so that it's an enjoyable swim. So it's the most reptilian part of the brain, and so we call it the lizard brain. It was designed for when there were saber-toothed tigers out there and, real hazards everywhere you turn, and you had a chance of being, eaten by a lion or a tiger before morning. In swimming, and especially in a triathlon, you can get that same response from your brain just by someone bumping you or by going to take a breath and having a wave splash your face. Neither one of those is something that is going to kill you instantly. It shouldn't be, but your body can have the exact same reaction to it. So that's why it's important to sort of go through some of these things that we're going to look at in a second. So these are sort of the opposite end of the scale. This one is just a really nice picture of two people relaxing and enjoying the swim. No danger around them. They're just totally relaxed. They know that nothing's going to hurt them. There's no shark that's going to jump out of the water. There's no tigers. They're just having a great day. If they were feeling in danger, they wouldn't be sitting there fishing. So you want to kind of feel like this during your triathlon. I'm safe. Nothing bad's going to happen. If I get tired or stressed, I know exactly what to do. And then you also want to be able to access the planning part of your brain so that you can think of, what have you rehearsed? If I get tired, okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to tread water and I'm just going to breathe for a few minutes. I'm going to roll on my back and float. I'm going to do some breaststroke. Like you think about these things ahead of time, and that's planning. And if your brain freezes, you can't even access that. So you might just struggle and exhaust yourself. So emotional intelligence is being aware of your emotions and being aware of other people's emotions. This can be a really tough thing for some people, especially in American society. Having been to Europe a handful of times and I lived in Germany for 6 months, I feel like some European cultures are more in touch with their emotions. Like think about Italians or the Portuguese. They just tend to be very passionate. In England, I've noticed that there tends to be more affection between men without fear of, someone thinking that you're attracted to that man. It's just a friend. There's more openness. And so being able to access your emotions is a really big skill that can be a huge leap for some people. You don't need to go super deep with this for triathlon. We can just use red, green, and yellow. Okay, these are emotions. If we can name the emotion, we know where we stand and what we need to do. If we're those two guys fishing in the lake, we're at a green level. If there's a tiger biting down on our neck, we're probably at a red level. We're going to die soon. There's something in between. Maybe the waves get choppy. Maybe you hear lions roaring in the distance. Maybe you heard a car slam on its brakes and a big screech and you got startled, but it happened a block or two over. It's kind of a yellow, or maybe that's an orange, somewhere between yellow and red. When you can identify that, you can say, okay, I'm feeling orange. I just need to slow down. I need to stop and take a breath. If you're red, you need to stop and take a breath. But then the next thing you can do to de-escalate from red to yellow and then from yellow to green is kind of have some prepared thoughts that both of you guys have already mentioned. Ed, you're just happy that you can do this. If you're feeling red, you can say, well, okay, I'm safe because I'm still alive. I'm grateful that I'm here. And I'm grateful that I'm even treading water during the time that this event is going on. Completely removes you from the performance aspect or from the finishing time. I asked a question at one of our clinics that we did at Lake Arthur. I ask people to name something that someone could never take away from them. So I'll let you guys think about that if you want. But for me, when I think about that, I think about things like Nate, I don't know if you know, I'm an emergency medicine physician. So I think about instances where I've, literally saved somebody's life, where
Sure.
I've performed a procedure to get their heart started again or decompress a lung, like these really cool things that not a lot of people get to do. And I've done that. Nobody
Hmm.
can take that away from me.
Yeah.
Um, so do you guys want to, do you have anything that comes to mind? Because I really want to tell you what this guy said, but I want to give you guys a chance to share.
Good question. Excuse me. Ed, if yours is right there, go for it. Well, I'm thinking here for a second.
I think, nobody can take away my ethics, right? Like those are mine and I set them. So nobody can take that from me. I guess.
Hmm. So if you got into a sticky situation during the swim, Ed, if it was real
Mm,
crowded and somebody
mhm,
accidentally swum over you because they didn't know how to sight and they
mhm,
hit you in the head and pushed you under and you gulp some water
mhm.
and you come up, how would that, and this is not a judgment, I'm just asking
Yeah.
you,
Mhm,
pre-rehearse this.
mhm.
What does your ethics tell you about how you handle that situation?
That I think about what other people are, what drove them or why did they do what they did? And in that situation, in the example you gave, my thought would be, oh, they were probably unaware and didn't realize, so why would I react to that? So
Yeah.
carry on with yourself and
Yeah.
move past it. So
Yeah. That
again,
can be, yeah, that can be really powerful. And that
mhm,
that means that you're in touch with yourself, you're in touch with your emotions. You can immediately de-escalate any fear or panic. And maybe you're so good at that because you practice it in other areas of your life that the first time something like this happens to you, you don't even get to red. Maybe you just get to like lemon lime color or orange.
mhm. Yeah, I might make a funny face for a second, but
Yeah.
then I move on.
Hopefully we capture it on a picture right at that moment.
Yeah, there's a few out there.
Yeah.
Like,
Nate, anything that you want to share? You don't have to share, but did anything come to mind?
No, I really like what you said, Ed. I mean, there are like I can control, me and that's it, right? Outside of that, right? Like I can't control what other people are going to do, how they're going to react, but how I respond, right, could be of understanding or maybe compassion in a certain situation, on the race. Um, but yeah, I was trying to think in life, whether it's knowledge of something or that's something somebody can't take from me or um, or like my faith or that kind of stuff, no matter what, that's mine.
Yeah. Yeah, those can be really powerful tools to lean on,
Hmm.
regardless of the situation that you're in. So thank you for sharing. So this one
Sure.
guy, his answer was, I won an Emmy. And nobody can take that away from me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Like maybe I've met people who've won an Emmy and I didn't know about it. You can win Emmys for things that are not necessarily on screen, but like imagine the pride that you'd have. Like, I won an Emmy. And so what if I finished this swim, 2 minutes slower than what I wanted to? I won an Emmy, right? Nobody can take that away from me. And it just again helps you detach from the outcome that's not in your control and brings you back into what you can control. So we're going to do some practice here. So green, yellow, red, those are your main answers. You can use lemon, lime, or orange or anything else that comes to mind. So Nate, if you're able to go ahead and unmute and you guys can talk over each other, I'm just going to kind of go through these quickly to save some time. Green, yellow, red.
green.
Green. Maybe yellow.
Yeah, lemon lime.
Green.
You still thinking, Ed?
Oh, I said green. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. You must have talked at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah.
red.
Red.
Oh, green.
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 Yeah.
This is
Green?
better.
I
Yes.
would say maybe yellow. Just depends.
Be like red.
Yeah, red.
Time to go for a run.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, same thing here. Red.
Red. Green.
I'm gonna go yellow or
Okay.
lemon lime.
Okay.
Green and green.
Yeah, green.
Interesting. So these all three, well, two people, they're both doing the sport, but this one might make you a little yellow, but this one's totally green. Why do you think you have that
Oh,
reaction to these pictures
yeah,
compared to the
you,
previous?
yeah, you're not in water on the left, and the other one you're coming out of the water.
Okay, all right. So it's related directly to the water. Okay. Not to
Yep.
her enjoyment or
Oh, I see. I see
domination
what
of
you're
the
saying.
sport.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know that for me, I like it because I see that it was like the guy who was showing his muscles, like,
Hmm.
that makes me feel green because he's feeling confident. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. So this is Kirsten Sass, and she won the Olympic distance national championship last year.
Hmm.
And I've been coaching her since 2012. And
Awesome.
she has won 60 national championships, 60.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I feel green every time I watch her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. This is Brian, by the way. You'll meet him if you come up to the swims or hang out with Joella's racing and training groups often. So some specific strategies. We've talked about bumping. Excuse me. Starting the swim, you don't have to start, guns blazing. I start floating. I literally push off and I just float in the water for about 3 to 5 seconds. And then I'll either start stroking or I might stand up again. I might push off 2 or 3 times. Obviously, I'm not competing for the podium. I'm not trying to be first out of the water. I want to have a good swim and just feel strong while I'm swimming for me, regardless of my time. There's a lot of things going on that I can't control, like bumping and the waves and other people getting panicky. And so I start very slowly and I will ease into it. And I've learned that over time. I have tried to start fast in the past because I see other people doing it, and that just does not work for me. So you can stop and restart. You can stop at any time during the swim. You can stop and tread water. You can stop and stand on the bottom. You can stop and hold on to a kayak or hold on to a buoy. Joella puts buoys and noodles at every um, float, like the little orange buoys next to the big buoys. She puts additional things there that people can hold on to. The only thing you can't do is have someone like a kayaker move you forward along the course. Now, if it's wind is blowing, that's not a big deal, but you can stop and rest and they just stop with you. All that is totally legal in a triathlon.
Huh,
Uh,
I didn't know that.
yep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, safety is number one.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. So one thing you could practice, Nate, in the
Mm.
pool is, you said you usually it feels chaotic at first. What would it be like if you practiced being calm for the first 4 lengths?
Hmm.
What does that
Yeah.
feel like? That does it make you feel like you're not doing enough? Because everybody has the most energy at the beginning, and it's really easy
Yeah.
to go fast and then realize that you're tired. So, maybe you go fast-ish for a minute or two and then give yourself permission to slow down. But
Mm.
experiment with pacing in the pool before you get to the race.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Definitely. I noticed one of the recent times I went to the pool that when I got to the deep end, I had tried to not grab onto the wall on the other side, or basically stay in the basically treading water to then turn around,
Mhm.
and just to get that experience, like, hey, you're not going to have the wall out there to hang on to, or that kind of thing. So
Well, you definitely won't have a kayaker every 25 yards.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
If you're able to get up to Moraine for one of the practice
Well,
swims or to swim in the buoyed areas, you can get that kind of practice too.
sure. Sure.
Um, and then I just want to mention one thing about sighting, um, because I think it's really important. We're so used to we get so much visual information all the time that our brain discards most of it. If you think about what you did today, you probably, if you're like most people, have kind of a slideshow of images. But if you like, if I relax here and just sort of casually look around the room, I mean, I see books, I see pictures, I've got a waterfall on my TV, I see my bike, I see a fish tank, my dog's here. Like, there's all this. When I think about my day, I don't remember anything like that. Like, what do I remember
Hmm.
about this morning leaving the house? I remember like looking for a can of something to drink. That's all I remember. I don't remember all this other stuff. So your brain is used to discarding information all the time. Allow it to do that when you're swimming, and don't force your eyeballs to gather every single piece of information when you go to sight. So unless you're first, there are going to be people in front of you wearing bright colored swim caps. If
Mm.
you can't see the buoy, you can see all the other people. So aim for the middle of all of them. Uh, as far as like gathering that information, so there's what are you looking at? There's also like how are you looking at it? When you sight, if you're going to try and gather everything and you can't see the buoy, I do this sometimes, but only if I haven't seen the buoy after like 3 times of peeking up. If you pick your head up and you spend enough time looking around, like what's over there? Where's the buoy? Oh, I see it. It's over there. Well, now you're like vertical in the water. You've lost all your momentum and then you have to start again. And people are just used to using their vision that way. If you just think about peeking your eyes above the water and then putting them back down,
Mhm.
there will be an impression on your retina that's still being fed to your brain, and your brain is still processing it even as you're stroking after peaking. And you can practice this at home by just closing your eyes, turn your head in a different direction. I mean, I know it's over there, but I'm going to see if there's anything new. I'm just going to open my eyes and close them very quickly. So when I did that, you can't see my fish tank, but when I did that,
Mm.
what I see is there's an empty 1 gallon jug on the top of my fish tank that I used to put fresh water in before I started this. And there was kind of a blue glow from the lights. And you saw, hopefully, how much time my eyes were open. It wasn't much. So you can practice that, allow yourself to be comfortable not getting 100% of the information that's in front of you. Get just enough. And if you don't get what you need, just do it again, peek again, but now you can be more focused with your attention.
I
Oh,
like it.
I'm glad. That looks like a duplicate. All right, so part three, I only have about 10 minutes. I have another thing to do at 8:30.
Mm.
Um, but I actually condensed this into the things that I think are most important. Um, yeah, so let me do this one first. This is me and Archie. This is Archie's first big boy swim. That's why I'm so happy. You could see my brother's dog back there. They're bird dogs. They're trained as hunting retrievers. And it wasn't until Archie saw these other dogs swimming that he finally decided to give it a try. So I was very proud of him. But if you think about how efficient dogs are, people, let alone dogs, dogs are not made to swim. They can swim, but they obviously
Mm.
the doggy paddle. Super inefficient. They don't swim fast. Heads out of the water, legs are dragging, their strokes are short. They're not designed to swim. Dolphins, on the other hand, they are designed to move through the water, as are whales, dolphins, whales, fish, torpedoes, submarines, all designed to move quickly underwater. They have features that make them move fast. They're long and tapered. The skin is tight. Um, dolphin skin, blubber, seals, it's all designed to kind of minimize shapes moving around while you're swimming. Um, Obviously, torpedoes and submarines have a steel hull, so they're not changing shape. Um, those are the main things. They're long and they're straight and they're smooth. Most humans have an efficiency, so dolphins are around 80% efficient. Most humans are 3% efficient if they're just sort of capable of swimming at all. The best humans in the world are like 8 to 9% efficient. So your Olympic champions, Michael
Oh.
Phelps, um,
Mhm.
Katie Ledecky, I don't know the names of the current Olympic champions swimmers, but all those swimmers that you can think of, Mark Spitz, maximum 8 to 9%. So it's not a very big range of efficiency from 3% to 9%. So if you
Mm.
think about how you can improve swimming the fastest, you could either train, if you go from 3 to 4%, adding 1% to 3, that's 33% more efficient. Think about how long you would have to train to bicep curl 33% more weight, or squat 33% more weight, or
Wow.
race 33% longer. I mean, everybody could run longer by running slower if you had the
Mm.
endurance. But the difference between these things kicking faster, stroking faster, using fins, using snorkel, using paddles, doing a bunch of drills. The most common advice that people get are things that help your fitness. It's not that fitness isn't important, but if you think about what will help you the fastest, it's improving your efficiency, even by a teeny tiny bit. And so that's why, when I mentioned thinking about my thumb today, I was thinking about, well, how can I make my stroke the most efficient so that I have the least pressure on my thumb and I'm moving forward better? Am I putting too much pressure on my thumb because my wrist is bent or my elbow is dropped? It may have not made a big difference, and it's kind of hard to know. Did I swim faster because of XYZ? You may not know, but over time you'll feel better. And so this is just a little math here. From 3 to 4% is a 33% improvement. 4 to 5% is a 25% improvement. 5 to 6%, a 20% improvement. Even 6 to 7%, a 14% improvement. You could keep going up. 12.5%,
Hmm.
7 to 8. So these elite swimmers are swimming 6 to 7 to 8% efficiency. They can still improve much more quickly by continuing to work on their form and their stroke and their technique, as opposed to working on fitness. I forget what math I did to arrive at these things, but yeah, you can improve the fastest by focusing on efficiency. So these are some checkpoints. And so Nate, Ed, I don't know if you've seen this slide before, but I think we've talked about this. Nate, you can take a screenshot or I will post a replay.
Sure.
These are things that you can think about. They're not drills. They're awarenesses, awareness of your body,
Hmm.
being tall in the water, just thinking about straightening up with your posture. And then that includes posture through your hips and your knees. A lot of people swim as if like they're sitting on a bike. They're flexed at the hips and their knees are bent. If you just think about standing as tall as you can, lay in the water and then, stand tall. Think
Hmm.
about reaching your toes behind you as far as you can. The first time I did that, it felt wrong, but
Yep.
I was much faster and much smoother. I was like, that was really weird. Lengthening your body, relaxing your recovery arm. So people carry a lot of tension when they swim, and we have tension in your shoulders. It impacts how well your shoulder blades move. It impacts how well your neck turns. And when you're swimming freestyle, even if you're not breathing, your body is constantly rotating around your neck. So if you've got tension, your neck might be
Hmm.
back and forth. If you just relax your recovery arm, think about dangling your forearm and having a loose, dangly wrist. That's going to relax everything all the way up, and it's going to make everything about swimming feel easier. The tricky part is learning how to hold tone in your core to keep your
Hmm.
posture while relaxing your arm during recovery. But that's a skill you can practice, and that can be your drill. Um, Minimizing splashes by entering smooth. So this doggy is splashing. He doesn't have a smooth entry. Think about sliding your hand and your wrist and your elbow and your forearm all through one slot in the water. So it doesn't make any splash, as opposed to coming down like that and having the whole forearm or the whole arm hit at the same time. Some people land with their upper arm first and they make a big splash. Anything that makes a splash takes energy that came from your body, and it's reducing your efficiency and not moving it forward. Hide your legs. I really like this one. If you think about if you've ever done fishing, specifically trout fishing, they tend to hang out behind a boulder in the current. And so right behind the boulder, there's still water. There's no current behind the boulder. The current is actually pushing them upstream. And when they want to eat, they see a bug come by. When they want to eat, all they have to do is a little flick of their tail to move out of that still water into the fast current, get the bug, and then they move back in. So even though they're hiding behind the boulder, they can still move around and generate acceleration behind the boulder. So your legs are kind of the same thing. Your body is the boulder. And as you swim through the water, you're creating a wake behind you, and there's still water behind you. Your legs can be in that still water and still be effective. When they go out of that wake that your body's created, they start creating more drag for most people than they're contributing to forward movement. So thinking about hiding your legs, it goes along with being tall and lengthening your body. And then the last one here, sneaky breathing. So sneaky breathing is keeping your head low and rotating your face so that most of your face is still in the water, enough of it that you might get water instead of air. The lower you get your head, the less you're going to disrupt your balance. But when you're learning it or practicing it for the first time, the more likely you might actually find water there instead of air. And you need to go there where there's only water in order to find that
Mhm.
optimal point.
Yep.
So don't practice this and suck in air. Like I do
Hmm.
this drill where I'll rotate my head and not breathe at all. Like I'm not inhaling, or I might even
Hmm.
exhale as I rotate my head. So I can just experiment with where my head lays. And then these are just some pictures of these things. So streamlining tall body length. So from fingertips through the armpit, through the hips and the toes, nice, tall, long. You can see that in this guy too. Nice and long. This person's nice and long. All three of these people have that same type of form where they're as tall as they can be from their wrist to their toes. You can imagine if this lady's hips and knees were bent, she would actually like shorten her body up. This guy is pushing off the wall in a streamlined position. This actually takes a lot of practice and skill. A lot of people are not able to sort of feel that orientation in the water. And so you mentioned not touching the wall. Uh,
Hmm.
and I get that it's good to give you the experience of swimming continuously without any rest at all. But it's also good to practice pushing off the wall in a very streamlined position, because then you can see this guy's from his fingertips to his rear end.
Hmm.
As soon as he pushes off, he's going to look like this swimmer.
Hmm.
Good swimmers look like this in open water or in a pool. This water's water. And then these last two here are just examples of a really relaxed recovery. Especially you can see how these fingers are dangling. This guy, even though he's a little bit twisted here, he doesn't have tension in his wrist. His wrist is bent that way because it's just relaxed and it's just sort of coming out of the water, following him. Sort of like a duck or a goose's foot when they swim. Same thing here, nice and relaxed arm. So pick one or two things, replace force with relaxation, come to the practice swims at Moraine before the race. Any questions? Comments? Takeaways?
For the race in August here, is it pretty much nobody's using wetsuits at that point? Like it's hot enough, right? The
The
water
water
temperatures, like
the water temperature's been 90 degrees,
okay,
and it will not be wetsuit legal.
okay.
It could,
I figured as much, but
yeah, it could cool off a little bit, but
mhm.
it's been pretty warm.
Yep.
Anything else? What swim tip do you think you're gonna try first next time you go to the pool or the lake?
I think probably is trying to lengthen is one and get more like just that neutral position or streamlined position,
Yeah.
really reaching out in front and
Hmm.
just try to be more relaxed and not fighting the process.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear how that goes. I bet you'll
Sure.
it feels wrong
Hmm.
when you changes because you're just not used to it. But a lot of times what you need to do to become a better swimmer is very counterintuitive. And the first
Hmm.
time you try it, it doesn't feel right. And so people don't try it again.
Sure.
But if you know that it's one of these things that's improving your efficiency. So this is what I meant, how I've sort of giving you a filter for, is this drill going to help me or not? Is this a drill that's telling me to work harder? Or is this a drill that's telling me to be smoother or taller or quieter or sneakier?
Hmm. Sure.
All right. I got to run. Any last thoughts?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Greatly
you bet.
appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for showing up. I apologize for the confusion at the beginning. I'll straighten that out so everybody's got the correct link for tomorrow or next week.
Sure. Sure.
Take
Well,
care.
great to
Thanks
meet.
a lot,
Yeah,
guys.
great to meet you both. We'll
Yeah,
see you.
nice
Thank you.
meeting
Take care,
you.
Nate.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ed. See you. Bye bye.